Welcome to this week's Parent Connection webinar. Our topic this week is student employment on campus. As we are getting close to starting the semester, this is one of those topics that I know many parents and students are anxious to know more about. Before we start, just want to take a moment to introduce myself to you. My name is Kubasek, and I'm currently a development officer at St. Leo University. And so before we go any further, I wanted to take a moment and make mention of something important. You may have read in the latest issue of the Parent Connection e-newsletter that I'm no longer going to be serving in the role of Director of Parent Relations. I have recently been promoted to Development Officer. In this new role, I will be working very closely with alumni and friends of St. Leo University across the country to build relationships and engage those folks in remaining close with our university. I have assisted in building the parent office over the last 3 years, and I'm very proud of the work that we have done. Moving forward, Eddie Kenny, who has served in the role of Director of Alumni Relations for the last 3 years, will become the new Director of Alumni and Parent Relations. He will be hiring an assistant to work closely with him in providing the same level of excellent service that I have strived to provide for parents of our students over the last few years. Again, this evening we have quite a few parents who have logged on to this presentation. I hope that this presentation will inform you in order to provide you with useful information that you can use as you continue to support and advise your child as he or she grows and develops here at St. Leo. For those who are listening for the first time, I want to take a moment and explain a little more detail about what these webinars are exactly about. The Parent Connection webinars are a brand new program that we're offering to parents of St. Leo students for the first time this year. We've already conducted a few webinars and have had great feedback from the parents who attended. If you're interested in viewing the video archives of those past presentations, you can go to stleo.edu/parentconnectionwebinars and click on the archive link for each presentation. These sessions are intended to equip you, the parent of a St. Leo student, with information that can help you to continue to mentor your child throughout the university experience. These webinars will give you an inside look at how things work at St. Leo and an opportunity to hear from the people who make it happen. I hope that you utilize these webinars so that you as the parent can become as informed as possible about how things work at St. Leo. And with that knowledge, you should really encourage your son or daughter to take the necessary steps to handle situations on their own, with your guidance, of course. And so since this is a webinar, we have set up the program so that you will be able to view and listen to our presentation. I'm sure that many of you will have some questions. If you do, please go ahead and type those questions into the chat box, and at the end of the presentation, we'll take some time to answer those questions. Tamika Granger is this evening's presenter, and she will be sharing some very relevant information about student employment. Tamika, welcome again.
Thank you.
This is not your first time as a presenter on these webinars. Tamika was in fact our first guest presenter for our financial aid session back in March. Tamika is the Associate Director of Financial Aid here at St. Leo University. Tamika's primary responsibility is managing the on-campus financial aid team. She also oversees the Student Employment/Federal Work Study program. Tamika has been working in higher education for the past 8 years and specializes in Title IV federal funding. All right. As you already know, this particular Parent Connection webinar is designed to familiarize you with the student employment services offered for your student at St. Leo University. Please keep in mind that FERPA laws prohibit us from answering specific questions pertaining to private student records during this public webinar session. Our staff is happy to address specific student issues privately after this session during normal business hours. And Tamika will provide you with some contact information during her presentation. I do, however, encourage you to ask any question that you have about the student employment process that does not pertain to a specific student's record. As mentioned earlier, you can ask questions by typing them into the chat box, and at the end of Tamika's presentation, we'll take some time to answer those questions that you submit. If we don't get to all the questions during the session, we'll follow up with you personally by phone or email. Okay, now that's enough from me. Tamika, again, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamika Granger, the Associate Director of Financial Aid. I also oversee the Student Employment Program. What a lot of people aren't aware of is that student employment entails both federal work study positions and regular student employment positions. There isn't really a big difference between the two. The only difference is federal work study is coming from federal funds within the financial aid package, and student employment positions are being paid by departmental budgets. But they both share the same rules and regulations. I'd like to start off by going off of some of the benefits of student employment. Your child engaging within the student employment program is capable of building relationships, professional development, flexibility, and studies also show that students who work achieve better grades and manage their time more efficiently. Some information about the Federal Work Study Program. It is a need-based program that gives students the opportunity to work while they're in school. The eligibility is determined based on the information that they receive when they put into the FAFSA. So not all students that are eligible will receive Federal Work Study. Students can check their E-Line accounts to verify whether or not they've been awarded with a Federal Work Study Award. Currently, for the 13-14 award year, the Federal Work Study budget has been exhausted. However, we are taking names to place students on the federal wait list.
Before you go to the next slide, I just wanted to, reiterate a point that you had, because I get a lot of questions about this from parents. So the Federal Work Study Program is federal money that is funded for students to be able to work on campus, but then there are also separate budgets, correct, that different departments have, and that comes from the university's money, so there's a
Correct.
distinct difference there.
Correct.
So if a student doesn't necessarily qualify for federal work study, they can still go ahead and apply for jobs that are funded by the university?
Absolutely, absolutely. And now notice on the student portal, any job that requires federal work study, it will have work study in the title or the description of the position. If it's open to both work study students and student employment, it will be titled student employment. So we do encourage all of our students who are not awarded federal work study to apply for those positions.
Okay, great.
The job application process is pretty basic. You would just go onto the St. Leo website job portal. There's a selection for student employment. The university online application system requires that you complete a basic application, also upload a cover letter, and a resume. There's also helpful templates that the students can use to actually create these documents. There's job opportunities available that do not require students to receive federal work study, and it will also stipulate that on each one. When they apply for positions, there will be certain questions to ask them. Have you been awarded federal work study? If not, it will let them proceed to the next part of the application. So it's very cut and dry. We really try to encourage students to apply regardless if they've been awarded.
Now, when would you suggest a student that's coming in as a freshman, when should they go on there and start applying for jobs? Should they be starting
Yesterday.
now? Yesterday?
Yes.
All right.
We've been posting positions all summer long. Some departments are even conducting phone interviews.
Okay.
So we encourage them to get their applications in now. And it's very important that students are very assertive, that they're, don't be shy. Follow up directly with the hiring manager. The hiring manager's email address is on every job description. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with sending an email, introducing yourself, and going up to them personally to inquire about the position.
Right. That's a good point to make, and I talk with parents about this a lot. It's just like the real world. There's, when you're applying for a job, it's always good to take that extra effort and network and meet people and send a message to the hiring manager, because there are a limited number of positions, and the student that makes himself most known and presents themselves the best usually will be the one that will get the position.
Absolutely, it is, and that's what we're trying to do, is prepare them for the real world. In the real world, you're just not going to just send out applications and wait for people to call you. You're going to market yourself.
Exactly.
So we try to get students into that mode and to be more assertive with themselves, and just to break out through their shield. They want to also know what their class schedule looks like, so what hours that they're available.
Okay.
They are limited to work 20 hours per week, and the hiring managers will work around their schedule. So they also want to bring their schedules with them to their interviews.
Okay.
They want to dress professionally, treat it like a regular job. Students cannot work during any time of class time. Even if the class is canceled, they're not permitted to work during those hours. So they have to adhere to their class schedule.
Okay. That 20 hours that you said, that maximum, if a student has a full schedule, they're going to find that will fill up. If they're trying to work 20 hours, they'll have a full schedule on their hands.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Not all departments will even have them work 20 hours. 20 hours is the absolute max that they can work a week. but typically it's between 12 and 18 hours a week at most jobs. That's what the hours the students will work.
Okay.
Selected candidates will be referred to the Student Employment Office to conduct the initial hiring process. You'll speak with either myself or Robin Parks, who is one of my advisors that specializes in the Student Employment Program. You'll start to complete some of the paperwork. We'll then refer you to the Human Resources at a designated area to finish out the process. The hiring department will then be notified by the Human Resources Department when the student can start.
Okay. So that's all the stuff that kind of takes place in the background, and the student,
Yes,
they apply and they'll deal with the hiring manager.
correct.
And usually students are being hired within the first couple of weeks of being back, right?
Absolutely. It is very possible they'll get hired that day, the very first day that they interview. They could go through this process that same day and be working the very next day. So they want to be prepared. Want to make sure they bring their acceptable identification, and just to let the parents know, we must have originals. We can't have copies. I know parents are hesitant to send them with their actual, let's say an example, passport or security card, but it has to be the original.
Okay. That's a great point, because that's something that could hold up, right? If the student doesn't have those originals,
They
it could hold
cannot
them up.
begin working.
Okay.
Yeah. And this next slide is actually a list of acceptable identification for students.
Okay. Now, parents, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in at this point. I think we're nearing the end of your presentation that you've got there. So go ahead and type those questions in, and we'll be happy to take them.
One of the popular questions is, how are the students paid? They're paid an hourly wage based on their job classification. It's the 15th and the end of the month, and they turn in timesheets to their employer. They'll also need to bring their direct deposit information with them. That is also a requirement for them to be approved to work. The first check is normally a hard check that they'll collect at the train stop. After that, they have to have a form of direct deposit, or they can elect for it to go directly to their Hire One cards.
Okay. So that means students should have a checking account set up somewhere.
Absolutely.
They're going to be working.
Correct. The fall hiring schedule, it actually begins August 26th and runs through September 16th. It's conducted on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. Student employment will be available at St. Edward's Hall between the hours of 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. Human Resources will be located in the Student Activity Building between the hours of 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Those are the times that we'll be conducting hiring. And that doesn't mean that they can't interview with their hiring departments. They may be conducting interviews all throughout the week for several weeks, but this is the time that once they are selected for hire, that they can come and complete their payroll paperwork.
Okay. Now, for those returning students, I've got a question here. If a student worked, say, I know over in the department where I am, we have students who make calls out to alumni in the student phone-a-thon office. Is it typical that those students would be hired back? And I mean, I know a lot of them are hired back, so how does that work? Are they paperwork being processed over the summer? How would that?
It's very
occur?
common. Normally those students that are being hired back, they already know, they've been told by their hiring manager. Because Human Resources is taking on a new role in this process, they are doing fresh paperwork for all the students, so they will have to complete their paperwork over again.
Okay. And then for those new students, I know you're hearing about students being hired back. That means that a lot of times it may take you more than the first semester to get a job. I know there's a lot of freshmen that come and they're gung-ho, but sometimes in the first semester it's actually better to just pay attention to your schoolwork, kind of network with some people, and then maybe in the second semester land a job. Would that be good advice?
It's a possibility. I wouldn't completely forego making the effort or the attempt, because there are some positions that they hold on to their students from fall all the way through spring.
Okay.
So that means they'd have to wait another year. But just keep in mind, we just had a graduating class, so those positions are open.
Right.
So the people that graduated, there's now gaps in those departments to fill up those spots.
Right. But don't be discouraged if it doesn't happen in the first
Exactly.
semester. There's opportunities that come up throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we've got a few more questions coming in. I'm going to take a look over here. Let's see. So can a student apply for any position regardless of whether it is flagged for federal work study?
They can apply, but if they are not awarded federal work study, they would not be considered for that position.
And a student that does have federal work study they could apply for any position then, correct? Or would they be not counted for just a university-funded position?
Well, what happens if they are awarded federal work study? Pretty much every department has positions open for work study because those are positions that are already funded. What they have limited positions are is student employment positions.
Okay.
So they're not really, those students who have federal work study, that's normally not going to be an issue unless it's a department that just needs one position. A lot of those departments do have a budget for just the student employment, and that's where a federal work study applicant really wouldn't qualify for that.
Okay, good to know. Another question here, asking about the timing of the webinar and could some of the jobs have already gone to upperclassmen, and I guess we've touched on that. This webinar, this is the first time we're offering this sort of service for parents. This information is all on our website, and students are encouraged to go ahead and take a look at that from day one and familiarize themselves. And hopefully, moving forward, we're going to have this session archived so that way parents in the future will hope that you'll listen to it and be able to get that information up to date and early. But no, this is a good time to really sink in with this information and know so that way students hit the ground running when classes start.
Absolutely, and just a word of encouragement, I approve the positions that go onto the website. I get them every day, so there's new jobs coming up every day. Some hiring managers wait to the last minute to post a job, so I don't want parents to think that these jobs have been sitting out there for 2 months and now their child is just now applying. Just start now and keep applying.
So and check every day, because
every day.
If you're approving them every day, I'm assuming that there's some getting posted out there at least on a weekly basis. Great. Okay, so for the parent or student that may be listening, that this is their first time coming to St. Leo, any words of encouragement if they they really want to land a job in the first semester?
I would just say put your best foot forward. If you're a shy person, I'm naturally a shy person, but sometimes you just got to fight through it. Fake it till you make it. Go up there and apply for that job, and you can do it.
Right. Awesome. So if there are any other questions, because we just had a few that came in, we intentionally kept this brief because we wanted to kind of have just the facts out there for you. But if there aren't very many more questions, we'll go ahead and you can always reach me by email, and I'll take those questions and we'll forward them on, and we'll make sure that they're included in the frequently asked question document that gets put out after this session. But again, there is plenty of information online. The other resource that you would want to find out or look at is our online job site, which the link was provided earlier, but you can always just go to stleo.edu and you will see a link for employment. I believe it's at the bottom of our page, and you just go to this section for student employment and follow that, and you'll see the jobs that are listed for students.
And if you ever have any questions, you can also email student.employment@stleo.edu.
Okay. And now, is there a direct link, or where would the best place be on our website to find out the student employment? Is that in the financial aid section of the website?
No, it's right where regular employment at St. Leo is.
Okay. So just all the information that they would need is all right there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Well, with all of that said, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. That's all we have for this session of the St. Leo University Parent Connection webinar. Be sure to go ahead to stleo.edu/Parent Connection webinars and view recordings of the past ones, as well as sign up for upcoming webinars. Next week, we'll have Ken Posner, Associate VP for Student Services, on, and he'll be talking about and answering any of the last-minute questions that parents may have for our Student Services division. Ken has been with St. Leo for quite a few years, and he actually lives on campus in one of the university's campus apartments, so he's definitely plugged in with what's happening on campus, and he can provide you with all the information that you'll want to know regarding your student's campus experience, and he'll have some really good information there. Maybe you might want to ask what to bring, what not to bring. He can answer that. He's got plenty of stories to share, so it'll be a great session. And again, after this is over, if you can, just go ahead and take our quick 3-question survey. That'll provide us with information as we move forward and continue with these sessions. And let us know what you think. Again, I thank you for being out here. This is all recorded, so it will be up on the website shortly, and you can go ahead, and if you missed the first few minutes, you'll be able to view that again and re-listen to any of the parts that you may have missed. So thank you again, everyone, for coming out. Thank you, Tamika.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And have a good night, everyone.